All right, hey guys, Josiah here with EasyCaters.com, and today is 5/23/19, Thursday, and I'm going to be doing just a quick review of some day trades I took today. Got back from my trip out west in San Francisco, back here in Nashville, and back to trading, and so this is my first day kind of sitting down at the office and getting back into things, and so we had a kind of a down day in the market. Gap down and traded downward most of the day. Got a little bit of a reversal in the afternoon, so we'll see how that goes. But anyway, so since the market was gapping down today, I was looking for some relative strength plays. Right now I mainly play on the long side, and so on a gap down day in the market, it's not really the ideal conditions for most stocks to be trading long. So I just look for those stocks that are really holding their own against the market sell-off and anything unusual that's happening on the long side like that. So CPRT was the one that was kind of on my list that was the strongest for the day. And let me pull up my short-term charts here. So let's just start with Well since I have that loaded here. So Well was a stock with relative strength. It had a little bit of churn here on the open. You can see on the 20, the 15 looked pretty good, and the 10 had this inside high churn bar here. So that one was a nice one off the open that you could have taken, which I actually realized I lost track of the time and didn't sit down at my desk and turn on the platform and everything till about 8:43. So I missed all the opening range trades, or a lot of them. But anyway, so it did have this opening range high churn bar on the 20, and several different ways to play that. And then it had this nice pullback to a daily level here. As you can see that I have drawn just a high of a daily level off the side of the chart here from prior trading. And so I was looking for a pullback to that, and we got that, and we got some churn stepping in here on the 15. And so I took this on the 15, and it actually set up the 30 just as it triggered. Just as that 30 closed, it also gave a nice high churn 30-minute signal. And so I was already playing that on the 15, and it worked pretty well. So that one just trended upward all day. SNPS was the other one that I took today. It didn't have an opening range play, but it was showing relative strength on a gap up and holding its own against the market. And you can see here on the daily, we were gapping up from 2 prior days of high churn volume at the extreme of this range, saying, okay, there's some support here. So it made sense that it gapped up and triggered those bars today. And it was, of course, today showing relative strength. So both of those things went together, to show that this stock had some context to go long. And so I waited for a pullback down here to the open. And it's not super obvious on this chart, but on the 15, you can see an uptick in the churn volume, which is what I was looking at. And then on the smaller time frames, you can see that though it didn't get high above the average, it did get high above the bars around it. So the churn started picking up in here, and so then it triggered and took off. So this one only worked for about 1.2 R's or so, and that's all I was able to get out of it. So that's what I took. So that one wasn't nearly as nice as well, but it did work. And then there was CPRT, which was the strongest one on my list in the morning, first thing in the morning, because it had this nice gap up over a base. You can see here there's this kind of a range or a pullback that happened here. And so this was kind of a base breakout on the open. So this had a lot of relative strength to the market. It was a breakout context, really strong, and it traded exactly how you would expect that. So it had a nice run off the open, pulled back, and I was looking for something down in here, but I just missed it when it happened. I think I had my blended mode turned on the relative volume, and you can see here that it the relative volume picked up just a little bit on this bar right here, and it showed a little bit better on the blended mode. And so this is not exactly what I look for. I would have preferred it to be on this bar here, and so this one I was just like, well, maybe it'll flush itself out one more time before running. So I didn't end up taking that one, and it ended up going straight to first target at least there before just kind of ranging the rest of the day. But so I missed that one. That one was a decent one though that set up. I just didn't decide to take. And then let's see what else we had. There were several opening range churn setups that I missed out on. So KTOS, KTOS had a nice 15-minute high churn bar on the open. Worked beautifully off the open. And you can see there was like a 5. We broke the 5, pulled back and tested the open here on this high churn bar here, and then broke that one and trended all morning. And the 10 was really a beautiful setup there as well. NC, let's see what NC was. I don't see anything on this one. It had a little bit of a pullback here, which you can see some churn picked up a little bit on these bars. Wasn't super beautiful though. There's a nice one here in the afternoon. Nothing much there. KAR, KAR. Yeah, I'm not really seeing much there. There was a little bit of a pullback here that put in some churn to kind of stop the fall, and this one could have been a long, but it didn't really trigger it until much later, so that one wasn't that nice of a setup. TJX. This one had a nice little pullback and a little bit of a churn signal on the open here, so this one would have been a good 15 on the open. And it pulled back and gave a nice 15 right here for a pullback trade. And I don't know, I can see if that one would have worked here. So it looks like this one tested below first, which I always like to see, and then breaks out. It looks like that one probably only got to 1 or 2 R's tops, but it did work, it looks like. So that's nice. And see, PM. Nothing much here, but we did have some volume signals down here at the low of this range. So that was nice for range-based traders. I'm more of a trend kind of continuation trader currently, so I don't really look at those signals. And that's what you got to do. You got to tune out the signals that don't play into your trading plan. You know, you don't just take trades on signals just because a bar lights up. You look for a bar to light up at a place that's confirming your thesis is essentially what you're wanting. So this is a thrust, pullback, and churn coming in at the bottom of a pullback. That's what you would expect. That's what you want to see. And so this one worked. So you want to look for signals that match your trading plan that kind of confirm what you're interested in doing already. You don't just want to take breakouts of any old bar. Let's see. So here was a stock that had a little bit of churn on the second bar off of the open. Not really much going on there, but it did really take off in the afternoon. That's J&J. STZ. So what we got here. So this was another nice range kind of trade. So we had churn on the open, and you can see this on multiple time frames. This one would have been a really good opening range break. Got up here, volume, it told you exactly where the top was. Did a nice pullback trade here, and we can see that it actually tested below and then triggered, and that one got to, looks like at least 1 hour, maybe 2 hours. And then we had another volume signal here that put in the top there, volume signal put in the low here, and several stocks actually had the same exact signal at the same time as the market kind of regained some strength. So you can see here, it showed up here, but it also showed up on the E-mini S&P over here on the 10. So a lot of times these signals will be just overall market players influencing the stock sometimes. TTWO. Not much there. There was, of course, that afternoon volume signal with the market that led to a nice run up. There was a signal here on the 5 that put in the bottom for this and had a nice little pullback trade there. Worked immediately. TTWO. Here's KO. And we had high churn on this. So this one was showing relative strength. It did gap down, but this is what I would call kind of a nope kind of setup. It's like, we're gapping down, but the volume is telling you, no, that's not what we're going to be doing. And so it's kind of completely rejecting that on high churn. And then we get this nice 5-minute inside candle, inside the first 5-minute candle, both of which have high churn volume. And then we break that, pull back to the breakout area, put in another churn bar, confirming it again, and break out to new highs here. Pull back to the breakout area again. And there's not a signal here until you can see that the volume ticked up a little bit on this green bar. And so what that usually means is inside that green bar, perhaps on a 2-minute or something like that, there's going to be a volume signal down there that signaled this bottom, and that led to that run. Then we had the late afternoon signal as well. CL. And that's why I keep the multiple time frames up. I've talked about this before, that sometimes you need to split apart a bar and look inside the bar to see, on a lower time frame, to see if there's a volume signal that's kind of lurking inside the bar. So that's where lower time frames come in handy. I draw the line at the 5-minute bar, but a lot of people trade on the 3, the 2, or the 1, and so forth. And so sometimes the signals are hiding on those, and I just miss out on those types of signals when they do happen. So you can't catch them all, but just stick to your trading plan. So MRK had a high churn on the 10 and the 5 at the open, and that led to a nice breakout trade there, and then it just kind of slopped around the rest of the day. Rost, these are getting to be more the weaker relative strength. So all of these stocks I have narrowed down to just the ones that show a little bit of relative strength, at least to the market. And so these are the weakest of those, and so they're probably not going to be as interesting here, but there are a few signals sometimes. What I'll do is I'll probably focus on these that have opening range breakouts, showed some churn on the open on some time frame. So this one had a nice hourly, but broke down. You can see it on the 30 here. We got a better risk to reward setup for a short right there on the 30. And the 20 actually and the 15 look really nice because you could have seen exactly where the volume was coming in on those charts. You can see volume churn at the open, kind of one in the middle where it's not there as much, and then it picks back up again at the very high and gives you a nice risk to reward, and down it goes. And then we bottom out at volume right here, and so that worked really well. If you have been playing that on the short side, that's PG. PEP. PEP just had a signal in the late afternoon with the rest of the market, it looks like. Nothing much there. ANF. Signal with the market down here at the late afternoon. There was a signal at the open on the 15 and the 10 and the 5, it looks like. The 5 had these nice inside candles breaking out, and that led to a nice run. BAH. I think I saw a couple of range trades on this one. Yeah, so you can see we had a high churn on the open, and that one worked for on the hourly chart at least, depending on how you played that. And then we pulled back down to that same area again, put in some churn down here on multiple time frames, and that one led to the afternoon trade. And then looks like KBH had some churn on the open. I'm not sure what this one did. Yeah, so looks like we had a really nice setup here. Bottoming tail on the 30 with high churn. 20 had a high churn on the open with the bottoming tail. And then we had this 15 that tested downward and then broke completely, negated that bar and broke upward. And on the 10, you had an inside 10, giving you a little bit better risk to reward there. So that's what I had today. I only took two trades, one on well, that I think is the one that worked really well. And that was just a pullback trade with relative volume to confirm. Yeah, that one's the one that worked really well for the day. And then S&PS just did 1 or 1.2 Rs or something like that for me. So not really something to write home about, but it did work and had a little bit of a volume signal there that if you were watching for it because of the relative strength, then you were able to get in on that with me. So that's what I had today. Hopefully that helps with your analysis. I missed a lot of the opening range trades because of just getting back from my trip and not being adjusted to the time and so forth. Uh, but anyway, so had a couple of nice trades, even on a down day in the market. A long trader can sometimes find some good setups if there's some stock showing relative strength, and that's what I had today. So we will talk to you next time. Thanks.